Welcome to Unity Talks, where the hiring experts of Dallas-based recruiting firm Unity Search engage in lively discussion with successful business leaders to dissect their careers and how they got to where they are today, the obstacles overcome to reach their success, and steps they've taken to stay at the top of their respective fields. So listen in as we provide you with the thought-provoking conversation and ideas that keep industries moving forward.
And welcome back to another edition of the Unity Talks podcast. I'm your host, David Cathey, and we have a really good guest today that I'm very excited about. Shout out to Mario Ramos, who is the director of our IT division, who introduced me to the guest. Mario's known him since 2021. They've had many conversations. They're probably going to grab drinks pretty soon and have a lot of fun. But a couple of interesting facts about our guest, and we're going to learn more, is I think the most interesting one is that he was the 2024 Talent Acquisition Leader of the Year winner in DFW. And this is our guest, Danny Rojas. Danny, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. And thanks for Unity inviting me on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got to tell us, how did you get nominated for this Talent Acquisition Leader of the Year 2024? Tell us about this.
Sure. Well, I've been told that who nominated me is still a mystery, but I think I have a good idea of some leaders, and maybe my wife, who's also a recruiter, might have had a hand in it. But, a lot of work over the last couple of years in the various companies that I've been a part of, JCPenney, the Container Store, a lot of transformation, a lot of growth, a lot of just giving back to those organizations whenever they're really in, some tough times. And I think a lot of that work led to, some of the results that we saw, which led to some of the nominations, which I think led to me being selected as not only a finalist, but also the winner. So
yeah,
really, proud and honored to have that kind of trophy on my desk now. So excited to see what's next.
Yeah. Well, I was reading your bio and talking to Mario today, and I saw that and I was like, wow, man, I didn't even catch that yesterday. That's a great little award. And it just happened. When did they hand that out?
So the gala was in February.
In February of this year.
Of this year.
Okay.
This year. So they go through a selection process. They follow up with you to kind of check in, maybe ask more questions if there's any more questions needed. And the Texas Recruiters Network is the actual board that's put together to select those finalists and ultimately the winner. And that's kind of what happened over the course of a few months. I was notified as I was a finalist, and then went to the gala, and they kind of treat you like the Oscars, and they call you up there, and you got to give a little speech. And so that was a whole experience in itself.
Did you have it written out, or did you just go off the dome?
Well, to be honest, I really didn't think I was gonna win it.
Yeah.
I was going to get some great talent here in the DFW area, and I had about 9 different versions that I thought I had memorized in my head. And then you hear your name, kind of called, and they put your picture on the big screen. I forgot all of them, but I think I did good.
Yeah.
So, well, you have to ask some of the guests.
We'll have to find the tape.
That's right.
We'll run it back, look at the tape, see if you did good. Okay, so Danny is the Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition at the Container Store. And as we always do for our guests, we'd love to give like a little 2 to 3 minute infomercial on the Container Store. So tell us a little bit about what you have going on over there these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Container Store, it's a boutique nationwide retailer. So we sell containers and storage organization solutions. So we do everything from actual containers in the store to bins and baskets and kitchen and home, office, everything that you might need, to custom spaces and organizational solutions. So we'll actually come into your home. We'll look at your space. We'll measure your space. We'll find out what your needs are. And then we'll design the space in the home with the customer. We offer kind of budget-friendly, high-end, everything that you need and in between to help organize that space. We'll come in, demo, build it out, do a final walkthrough with you, and maybe add some of those bins and some of those baskets that we're talking about. But Containers are based here in DFW as well, here in Dallas. So we've been in business for over 45 years. The experts in everything storage and organization.
I speak from experience. If you take your wife to one of those stores, you will be there for 2 hours minimum. So just be prepared. If you're watching or listening to this, you will be at that parking lot for a long time. They need to have a coffee shop in that store, or like a snack counter for all the dads walking around.
That's a great idea. I'm going to take that back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as long as I get credit for it. Okay, Danny. So take us through. Let's fast forward through your career. If you could just take us through your career and how you got to the position you're at right now. After we move past that, because that's going to be good context for everybody, I really want to kind of talk about we're gonna label this a resume black hole when people apply to jobs and help us navigate that. So, but first, let's take us through your career.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So I think I have what I call a non-traditional way into talent acquisition. I joined the military in the 11th grade. So I joined the military. I planned on serving as a young child. So all throughout my school years, it's what I expected to do. And I actually turned down a scholarship, an academic scholarship to do that, which I got my senior year. Didn't know about that. I had already joined the military. But I submitted an application, got it, and said, well, I already got my boots on, so we're heading out. Joined the military and served as an infantryman for 6 years and some change, and moved up the ranks into several leadership positions. And there comes a time in every infantryman's career where they have to choose, where they call what's an extra type of assignment, or so it's either drill sergeant usually or recruiter. And I'm definitely not the drill sergeant type. So, I mean, talking 18-hour days and lots of yelling at people that might or may not be taller than me. So I decided to go the recruiter route. I'm very much a people person. I love connecting with people, and volunteered for recruiting. Ended up coming back to Dallas in my hometown and my recruiting station that I was actually recruited out of. Quickly moved up there to be one of the number one recruiters in our station. And the rest is kind of history. Transitioned to the civilian side. And been limited ever since. So a couple of stints through the retail space, JCPenney, and then now here at the Container Store.
Yeah. When you were in the military and you went to your recruiting assignment, which was back where you were recruited out of, there wouldn't have been some of the same people that were working there when you were recruited?
No, and thankfully not. Recruiting had changed quite a bit since then. But no, they were all gone. They do a rotational assignment, it's usually like 3 years.
Okay.
Right? So they're in and out in 3 years. Most go back. You do have the option to become a permanent recruiter for the Army. Is actually what part of my plans were until I decided to stay here in Fort
Plant
Worth.
some roots.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I would assume that you may have to move around quite a bit if you wanted to do that and you really wanted to plant roots.
Yeah, full-time recruiters, they move around just like every other soldier. So they would have moved you every 3 years. And I ended up doing just shy of 10 years total before I got out.
Wow. Good for you. Well, thanks for your service.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for the
absolutely.
support.
Hey, so Danny, he alluded to it, but I'm gonna pause on that a little bit longer. He is a retail guy. I mean, he cannot get out of that retail industry. I mean, he had JCPenney and the Container Store. So, what is it about retail that just keeps drawing you in?
Sure. So retail is it's very fast paced. It's so ambiguous. And I remember being recruited for that first retail recruiting position, and the leader talking about how much ambiguity there is in the business. And I referenced my time in the military and going and planning for the mission to go this one way, and the first thing goes wrong and the mission is completely off. It's this, complete ambiguous environment. So I was very much used to it and ready for it. And I have found that same kind of organized chaos in retail, where we're consistently, looking at what is our consumer doing, what do we have to shift internally from a strategy standpoint to, better serve that customer, to meet them where they are, so on and so forth, right? To market to them, to appeal to them, and to ultimately win that basket over somebody else. So I really love that organized chaos within retail. That's so fast paced, always changing, right? And the talent, it really is amazing. And I tell candidates when I speak to them that are interviewing for the Container Store that it is like the melting pot of retail. We've attracted people from every retailer that you could possibly imagine. So seeing that all under one roof is really great as well.
Yeah, that seems like that'd be really cool. Okay, so Danny, I'm so excited about this topic. We're calling it the resume black hole. And when I say that, just to explain to our listeners what I'm talking about, I feel like we've all felt that, where you submit a resume to a company. Maybe it's through LinkedIn, maybe it's directly from their website. And you actually told me there's nuanced differences between those two yesterday when we were talking. And then you don't hear from them. And you're like, what is going on? I fit this job perfectly. Or maybe you think you do, or maybe you're just trying to get some applications in so you can continue to claim your unemployment, which we always hear that as well. So, So I'd love to spend a little bit of time. We've got hiring managers that listen to this, and then anybody could find themselves in a candidate's shoes. And so tell me, when someone is applying to a job, what are the most optimal steps in your opinion? You worked for some great companies, JCPenney, big companies, JCPenney,
Sure.
the Container Store. What is the most optimal way for them to apply for a job online, and then just, man, I hope that works? Like, describe for us, the best candidate experience.
Sure, sure. That's a great question. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of the answer, I think it's important to highlight that the resume black hole is incredibly real, right? It happens every single day. And I think there's a lot that has led up to this environment that we're in today. The market being saturated with a lot of folks that have been affected by layoffs that are entering the workforce, right? Newly graduated students that are looking for their first job, their first career. So you have a lot that's kind of contributing to this resume black hole, including recruiters being affected by some of that downsizing, right? So you have recruiters that are now being asked to do more with less, and oftentimes it's faster. It's, I still need the talent now, I still need to hire them today. So you're moving from one requisition to another requisition to another requisition, and it creates this environment where it's really tough to go back and say, okay, we have 150 candidates, I'm going to go and screen all of them personally, right? So it leads to this black hole of resumes that maybe you never made it to, at really no fault of the recruiter. It's just the fault of the process, maybe the environment that we're in, the market. So for candidates, for hiring leaders, for recruiters, the conversation is very important. And I think the best way for a candidate to get ahead of it is know that you could be in those shoes. So it's important that you continue to network, you continue to grow your network now, but potentially before you are. I think we have a habit of connecting and networking only when we need to, or we feel like we need to connect and we need to network, right? I think you should always be growing, and it's good brand recognition for your company and for you and your personal brand, which are also important too. So if that time does come when you do need a job, or you do find yourself as a candidate, you already have a footing, right? But in the event that you don't, you're applying for jobs and you're doing what most people do, and recruiters sometimes do as well, which is it's applying and praying that you get a call back, right? So I think there was a time where the market really allowed that, because candidates were so hard to find, and recruiters had more time, so they could go through every single candidate that applied for a certain position and give them a call and let them know where they are in the process, give them some type of communication. I think it's a really tough time right now for people to be able to do that on both ends. And I think the best way to get around that is, when you apply for a position, be very intentional with that application, right? Do research on the company before you apply. Make sure it's a fit for you. Make sure culturally it's a fit, that it's someplace that you'd actually want to go to work at every single day. And then apply for the position, right? Let's say you meet 50%, 70% of the qualifications. If you feel like you could do the job, apply for the position, but don't stop there. I think it's where a lot of us, kind of stop and say, okay, we knocked that one down, let's go to another. Well, that's great, but the intentionality is now lost, right? You thought it was a good company, you put your foot in there, but maybe that's not enough. Maybe you also have to go knock at the door. Right? So a great way that I think candidates can do that is by getting in front of leaders, by connecting with them on LinkedIn, by doing deep research. Use some of those new AI tools that are out there, right? To try and find some people that may work for those companies, and reach out to them. Let them know, hey, my name is so-and-so. I have X, Y, and Z skill sets. I applied for X, Y, and Z position, and I would love just 15 minutes with you to talk more about that.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. It gets so many things gets lost in the mix these days with more automation.
Sure.
And so you can, with the click of a button, apply with a number of companies at one time.
Absolutely.
And it's only the ones that you're truly interested, which is why you were intentionally saying, make sure that you really want to work there, that you're going to follow up with. Because if it's so easy to apply to a company, and I could apply to 20 at one time, but I'm really interested in these three, I really shouldn't apply to all the other 17. I am going to go all in on these three companies. I'm going to do the research. I love the point that you made where you said, don't wait to network until you need your network,
Sure.
but begin to network now. And I think practically the way someone could do that is if you go research that company and you identify who that hiring manager is, and on LinkedIn, you can see that you have a mutual connection. Maybe your mutual connection can introduce you to that hiring manager. Would someone in talent acquisition, they wouldn't be offended by that if I was a financial analyst trying to get into the Container Store and I realized, oh, this finance manager, I'm connected to them. I want to reach out to them and I have someone make the introduction. Talent acquisition wouldn't be upset with me.
I don't think so. I think the really strong recruiters are looking for that, right?
Interesting.
I think the really strong recruiters are looking for more than just what's on that person's resume. And the only way you know that is through referrals, is through potential references, right? So if somebody's coming to me and saying, hey, I know so-and-so, work with him here or her there, blank, whatever, and I think they'd be a great fit for this position, or, they applied for this position, expressed interest in this position, maybe it's not as strong of an intro, it's still something that I'm willing to consider. And to be frank, it kind of pops them to the front of the line.
Yeah.
Right. So especially for me, because I can now not only lean on their resume and maybe the actual screening that I have with that candidate, right, the interview that I have with them, but I can now lean on the fact that they came from a reference, right? And I don't necessarily know that person, right, but I can lean on it more than somebody that just applied for the position.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I think about that process, I'm always looking for someone who's willing to go above and beyond. And if someone's willing to go above and beyond and do the research and try to reach out and make a connection, and they don't even have the job, they're doing it for free. I think in my head, once they get the job, how much more willing is this person going to be to go above and beyond in whatever function they're providing for the organization, be it tax, technology, a retail store employee. They are going to be the person, if they're the retail store employee, that's like, hey, I'll close up. I'll sweep that, right? They're willing to go above and beyond even before they got the job. That's kind of the way I would process that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a tell of what the candidate is willing to do.
Yeah.
Right. So they're willing to go, to your point, above and beyond than what other people are willing to do. And something that I find interesting is at the Container Store, maybe it's because so many people love the Container Store. Shameless plug of how much people love the Container Store. One thing that we're seeing as a trend is we're starting to see hard copy resumes being dropped off at the office.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So it's very interesting seeing that, and talk about going above and beyond. They're now commuting through the traffic in DFW from wherever they're coming from just to drop off a hard copy for a recruiter that they may never meet, right? So we take that very serious. We reach out to those folks. So I expect to see your hard copy resumes at the Container Store now.
Yeah.
But it's a great way to get in front of, to get in front of a leader, to get in front of a recruiter and say, hey, I'm really interested in this. And to beat that resume black hole that we've been talking about.
It's really funny. I was in a discussion a couple of weeks ago with someone who does what we do, external recruiting at Unity, and the comment that he made, and you kind of just referred to it in a way of someone bringing a hard copy, is he said, we've gone so far to the AI technology, don't talk to people face to face, don't even talk on the phone. It's only through messaging or texts, that his anticipation is face-to-face discussions are going to increase in value and phone discussions are going to increase in value more than what it's turned into, which is email and LinkedIn messaging. And we're going to come full circle, which is exactly, when I was a kid, you had to go somewhere and you had to give them a resume by hand or put it in the mail.
Absolutely.
right? And then you have to wait 3 days. So I remember growing up in Houston, my first job was at U-Haul, a guy that ran and got all the trucks and washed them and all that other stuff. And I remember having to go and here's my resume, which had nothing on there that I was just, a high school kid,
That's right.
but it had
Willing
to
to
be
work
in
hard.
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're almost entering this full circle moment where people cherish and prefer that interaction face to face or that extra effort of dropping something by the office. That's fascinating.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be the difference maker between somebody that is just using AI to write their resume and match it to every job they apply for versus somebody that actually has that skill set, that experience, and the background that that company needs to fill that position and ultimately drive its success, right? So by bringing back the human element
Mm,
to it,
yep.
right?
Yeah.
It is going full circle, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see because we've invested so much into technology and all these ATS systems and all these things that tell you how strong a candidate is. And AI has disrupted that and said, well, now I can take my resume, put it in this chatbot or whatever it is, and tailor it to that job in under 30 seconds. And according to whatever that scoring software is, I just became your number one candidate. But
Yeah.
did they really?
So I was just going to ask you about that because I'm sure being in a talent acquisition role at the Container Store and JCPenney, you started noticing resumes come in where they're applying, and it's almost like this person is too perfect
Sure.
for this job. How do you handle it? How do you decipher? That's got to be getting harder to train talent acquisition employees to read through all of that.
Sure, sure. So, it's interesting because we talk about how recruiters are being asked to do more with less. And one of the things that I've done with my recruiting team is ask them to do more with less. And
Yeah.
I've said, okay, the environment that we're in is changing and it is going to become incredibly difficult for us to go and conduct an intake with a hiring leader, take that information back and make an assessment on resumes that are coming in because now the resumes look perfect
Mm,
to your point. So the only way to truly overcome that is, well, one, through the interview, right? Which we're doing video calls with every candidate that we speak with at this point, if it's not in person, if they're not, local to the area or willing to come in for that first interview. And we are becoming SMEs in all of the areas of the business that we support. So to give you an example, my field recruiter came in this week and completed a week worth of field sales training with all the GMs and district directors that she supports
mm.
because I want her to be just as much of an SME in their space as they are so that we can make the best hiring decisions up front because we now know that there's risk of some technology beating the ATS
Yeah.
or beating the system.
Yeah.
And we're doing it across every area of the business. Technology, right, is another one. And that's a tough one because recruiters are not IT.
I know. I know. Well, it's crazy you say. I heard a story the other day, Danny, where it's actually two different stories. One of the stories was the person asked the candidate on the other side of the video interview,
Sure.
"Hey, can you wave with your right hand to make sure that it wasn't some, I don't even know, I'm not a techie guy at all, but to make sure it was a real person
Sure.
doing the interview." The second one was they wanted to take a picture of the screen
Mhm.
that the person was interviewing through so that when the candidate showed up for their first day on the job, they could look at the picture and look at the person and go, okay, this is the same person, as opposed to it being a friend of yours doing the
Sure.
interview because it's online and then someone else shows up to the job.
Right.
And you're hearing about all these. I would have never thought that a talent acquisition or a recruiter would have to go through these steps of,
Right.
okay, I'm totally getting duped by someone standing in for an interview and answering everything perfectly, or making sure that's a real person and making them wave. That's just wild.
Yeah. Or that we would have to go to that extent to determine if somebody's a real person or
Yes.
not, right? Or they're not using some type of AI technology on the back end to answer questions immediately and almost perfectly.
Yeah.
Right. So it is very interesting. You talked about those in person. I think that's a great way to beat it, right? Is invite them back in person for for the first interview,
Hmm.
right? Is it a little bit more time consuming? Yes, right? But you're going to get better results out of it, right? And you're really going to know the ones that are really interested in working for you if they show up.
Are ATS tools or the CRM tool, whichever you guys are using or whatever you call them, do they have a program in them where if the role has been filled or you do not think the person fits, it automatically generates a message back to the candidate so that the candidate may not
Sure.
think, oh, this is a black hole. They're getting a message back that says, hey, we filled the role, or we found a candidate that happens to be a better fit. Would that help solve that problem?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yes, in theory, that sounds great.
Hmm.
And most applicant tracking systems or CRMs, whatever, the organization might be using, do have that function, right? To where they do get a notice. But with today's environment and the need to hire the best talent, there can often be these elongated interview processes, right? That also contribute to that. So even if they do receive some type of notice, it may not be until 6 weeks or 8 weeks. But I definitely think that all recruiters should be using that type of automation, that type of, system tool that whenever somebody is hired into the role and then maybe they start, everybody else is auto rejected. Right. So we don't use that tool
Hmm.
specifically at the Container Store. It's because we have a cap on how many applications we actually take in.
Oh, interesting.
So for us, we rather close the job than accept more applications and have to reject more people. As recruiters, we're in the no business
Yes.
more
Yes.
than we're in the yes business.
Yes. Unfortunately, that's
Right.
true.
So for me and my team, it's let's try to limit the no's we have to hand out by closing the requisition after a certain number of applications, and then we'll go through those and then maybe reopen it. Most of the time, though, 95% of the time, we don't have to do that.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that you could cap them. Okay, so help me understand this then. When when a candidate is applying for a job, you think your recommendation is find a way to take the next step and reach out to that manager or reach out to the talent acquisition person that's working on that job. One of the things I want to go back to that you slid in, and when you were talking earlier, which I thought was important, is there's a giant supply demand issue, is what you were referring to earlier. You didn't use supply and demand, but that's what it was. It's a
Sure.
supply and demand issue.
Absolutely.
DFW is a massive supply and demand issue in and of itself because we have so many companies flocking here. It's a great state to work, right? I mean, the no state taxes for individual, we get tax benefits to companies moving here. We can grow out and up. We're not landlocked. We have tons of land, so our infrastructure needs to catch up a little bit in terms of our highways and
Sure.
systems to get people to work. But we have a giant supply and demand issue. Is that something that you guys talk about with your hiring managers on, well, why can't I get this filled within the next, 2 weeks? And do y'all talk through supply and demand issues and how do you address that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we see it quite often, and I think you and I had talked about it in our conversation yesterday, where we talked about how many people that actually apply for a position are qualified for it.
Hmm.
Right? That's where your supply and demand issue come in. There's a ton of maybe supply, maybe it's not a qualified supply, right? So I'd say 80% are probably not qualified for a specific role, right? Based on what the hiring leaders are looking for. So then you're left with this 20%, and maybe the comp's an issue or whatever else is an issue. And maybe you're down to 5% of the actual pool that apply for the role that may actually be viable candidates for the position. But in some cases, that still may not even be enough. So we address it on the front end with leaders by getting a better understanding of, kind of what are your headcount plans for the year?
Hmm.
Where do you see, certain areas of the business growing? How can we better support that? And we try to pipeline candidates up front, right? So you
Okay.
start
Okay.
building out pipelines of candidates up front to address the supply issue so that when the rec opens up, we don't necessarily have a supply issue. We have candidates coming in from a sponsored requisition on LinkedIn or Indeed, but we're also been collecting these resumes in the background by reaching out to people, by opening up, interest forms that we store in our ATS and just add them to our database. We can go back and quickly connect with people and grow our brand and do all the things at the same time, while also benching candidates for where we know we're going to have to add headcount, right? Or where we know there may be some expected turnover. So that's one way we get ahead of it, but we definitely address the supply and demand issue. And one way around that as well is maybe changing what the parameters of the role are, right? It's the supply is providing this, right? Do you really need all of this?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Or are you comfortable with this and training maybe a few pieces?
Yep. Trying to gain some flexibility with the hiring
That's
manager.
right.
Yeah.
The hiring manager on the real requirements of the position.
Yeah.
It still might be listed on the job description because that's what we aspire them to be.
Yeah.
But that may not be what we hire them,
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. Is my ideal candidate realistic in the market today?
Right.
And oftentimes it's not. So
Yes.
we need to get some flexibility here so that we can fill the role, or the role could be open for another quarter. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So my final two questions for you. Okay.
Sure.
So this funny thing that I've heard quite a bit, and I'd love to get your opinion on it. And that is the difference between women and men applying to a position. I've read so many articles where a man may fit, 5 of the requirements,
Sure.
and he is just going to apply and more often will get the job. And a female is going to look and go, man, I don't fit 80% of the requirements.
Right.
Therefore, I'm not going to apply. And therefore, they're not getting those positions that they very well could have. And it's just simply the way it's like men are from, what is it? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? We just look at it differently, where a guy's like, yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. Do you see that? And any comments related to that? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, so absolutely. So a part of my journey in talent acquisition was starting this mentorship program called Tailored Vets. And as a part of that program, we take veterans that are transitioning and we help them find jobs on the civilian side, right? So we work with men, we work with women that are transitioning out of the service. And one of the key denominators in that process is that the men are willing to say, well, I only really qualify for one bullet point on this job description. Can I apply? And I'm like, well, sure you can.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we're going to get it. So we're going to have to work up to that. But on the other hand, women are much less likely to apply. They're a lot nervous. They're a lot more nervous about applying. So we really have to build their confidence up to tell them that if you meet 50% of the qualifications, but you have the soft skills, right, that are required, and the tenacity and the motivation and all the other things that we know are going to make you successful, and you're able to bring that to a conversation with the hiring leader, you should still be applying, right? If it's a company you really want to work for, you are going to miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Yeah.
Right. So take the shot, reach out to the hiring manager. And one thing we didn't talk about earlier, which is being persistent, follow up. They don't reach back out to you, reach out again.
Yeah.
Right. Follow the 2 up, 1 down rule.
Yeah.
That's connecting with 2 people up and 1 person down for every position that you are applying for. And then reach out, be persistent, and be okay, be confident in taking that shot.
Yeah, love that. That's great advice. Yeah, I'd love to see those statistics turn a little bit. That would be great. All right, last question, and it's a question I usually ask most people. Tomorrow, let's say I'm going to look for a job, or someone listening is going to look for a job. What is the best piece of advice you could give them if they spot that job at company XYZ and they're about to hit that apply button? What is it? Is it tactical? Is it mental? What's your best piece of advice?
Sure. So definitely mentally prepare for it to not go as planned. But do everything you can in your power to push it in that direction. Reach out to the leader, reach out to peers that may be in that similar role today, and tell them what you could potentially do for them Be genuine in your response. If you're going to use AI, make sure you make it yours, right? Because it's going to allow you to do things faster. That's true, but make it yours and be very intentional with every step you take, including that application. You already know it's the job for you. It's got all the things that you want. It's at a great company. Why stop being intentional there? Don't. Continue being intentional. Reach out, follow up, drop off that paper copy if you have to. And I think there was a story in the news a while back about somebody that sent a cake to Nike with their resume on it.
Really?
A sheet cake.
Really?
With their resume on it.
I've heard of stuff, like some people brand themselves with Jordan shoes, like that's their thing, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm always gonna send my guest a pair of J's,
Sure. Yeah. I'm not saying send a cake, but it's an example of how you can make yourself stand apart, especially in today's environment.
Man, ladies and gentlemen, that was fantastic. Danny, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you being here and dropping some knowledge on all of us. So thank you. Yeah, thank you. And to our listeners, if there's something that I learned and probably reinforced with me today, that is be willing to go the extra mile when it's that job that you really want. Because if you go the extra mile when you want that job, once you get that job, that manager's thinking, this person's definitely going to go the extra mile. And don't wait to network. Don't wait to network once you need your network. Network ahead of time. That's going to help you with your career and the transition that you may or may not be making. All right. Until next time, thank you so much.
If you're looking for the next step in your career or the missing piece for your team, Unity Search has you covered. Whether it's finance and accounting, tax services, information technology, or human resources, Unity Search is here for you with experienced and dedicated hiring professionals. Reach out today and take the next step. Unity Search, placing you first.